I know that Christmas is right around the corner, but before you celebrate your festivals, you have a board exam to answer. So this video is for both the students of the 10th and the 12th standard on the topic les temps convenables, which is suitable tenses. For the 10th standard, this is asked in the MCQ format. For the 12th standards, it is asked as a normal question. Okay. This video will suffice for both the 10th and the 12th standards, but I advise you to look out for a little red dot on each slide to tell you which content is applicable for the 10ths and which is for the 12ths. Okay, let's begin. And disclaimer that this video is only to tell you when to use which tense. Okay, this is not an explanatory video about how to form the tenses. For that, you'll have to look at the individual videos. Okay, this is just a brush up on when you have to use which tense. Let's begin. The first tense you have is le présent de l'indicatif, that is the simple present tense or the present continuous. Okay, this is applicable for all the classes. Your clue words are maintenant, now, depuis, since, chaque ou tous les, for example, chaque matin ou tous les lundis, something like that. Toujours, which is always, cette fois-ci, this time, ces jours-ci, nowadays, en ce moment, right now, régulièrement, regularly. These are all words that imply something that's happening daily or on a regular basis. Okay. So for example, je me promène dans le jardin chaque matin. So chaque tells you a regular action every morning. Okay, so that's promener gets conjugated in the present tense. The present tense is also used for les faits généraux, which is general facts, things that are universal truths that will not change. Okay, La France est un pays en Europe. Now, France is always going to be a country in Europe, right? So, être goes in the present tense. It's a general fact. The second tense is le passé composé, simple past tense, again for all the classes. Your clue words are hier for yesterday, dernier ou dernière for previous. For example, l'année dernière ou la semaine dernière. Okay, passé, same thing, or any year which has passed for that matter. Okay, any year of the past. For example, nous avons voyagé en France l'année passée. We traveled in France last year. Last year implies the simple past tense. Third tense is le futur simple, which is the simple future tense. Your clue words are prochain ou prochaine, demain, which is tomorrow, suivant ou suivante. Now, prochain and suivant interchangeable. For example, la semaine suivante ou le mois prochain. Okay, next month. For example, as a sentence, Harold rentrera de Delhi le mois prochain. Harold will return from Delhi next month. Simple future tense. On utilise le futur simple également dans une phrase de la forme suivante. Si plus présent plus futur simple ou futur simple plus si plus présent, which means that if you have one part of the sentence in the form of si plus présent, then the other part goes in the other clause goes in the simple future tense. For example, si j'ai du temps à lire à la banque, now you see si and et. That j'ai is avoir in the simple present tense. So therefore the other clause goes in the simple future tense. So si j'ai du temps, j'irai à la banque. The fourth tense, which is again for all the classes, l'imparfait, which is the imperfect tense or the past continuous. It is used to speak of general situations or circumstances, for example, weather, landscape, and personality in the past, or of an action that continued for a period of time in the past rather than something that was one-off. So if it happened once and done, then it goes as passé composé. If it continued in the past, then it goes as the imparfait. Par exemple, j'adorais les sucreries pendant mon enfance. I used to love sweets during my childhood. Now, that childhood is a long period for you to love sweets, right? It's not like you loved it for one day or for 1 hour and then you were done. No, you love the sweets for the entirety of your childhood. So it's a long period in the past, therefore it goes in the imparfait. That verb adorer goes in the imparfait. Second use, to talk about an action that was often repeated in the past. Your clue words here, avant, autrefois, auparavant, ou jadis. These all mean previously or earlier. for a regular action or a repeated action of the past. Par exemple, les petits tombaient malades souvent autrefois. The children or the young ones used to fall sick often previously. Okay, so that often tells you it was something that happened regularly, frequently. Autrefois tells you it is of the past. The third use of the imparfait is to talk about an action that was already happening and something else happened and another action interrupted it. This is another structure of quand ou lorsque plus passé composé plus imparfait, or when the imparfait comes first and then you have the quand lorsque plus passé composé. Quand and lorsque is the same thing, which means when. So quand le portable a sonné, j'écrivais une lettre. So when the phone rang, I was writing a letter. Quand plus passé composé together, the other clause goes into the imparfait. It doesn't matter which comes first. Okay, it is a question of one and the other, not first and second. The fifth tense, which is generally only tested for the 10 standards, le passé récent, it is used when you have a il y a and a time expression of the recent past. Il y a, when it's followed by a time expression, means ago. So, un moment ou 2 heures, any recent past expression, generally less than 5 or 6 hours. Le président vient de rencontrer les athlètes victorieux il y a 5 minutes. Now, il y a 5 minutes tells you 5 minutes back, 5 minutes ago. It's a very recent action. So, passé récent. Now, this is another curious case of the structure ne pas with the verb in the present tense and then you're given the reason. Okay, that is also followed by the passé récent. This will be understood better with the example. Je n'ai pas faim parce que je viens de manger une tarte. I'm not hungry because I've just eaten a tart. Okay, whenever you have a negative expression and it's followed by the reason, then that reason is generally taken in the passé récent. For example, I am not hungry, I am not thirsty, I am not sleepy. Okay, things like this. Next, you have le futur proche, exactly the opposite of passé récent. Again, generally only taken for the 10th standard. Your clue words are bientôt, tout de suite, immédiatement, ou à tout à l'heure. These are all mean the same thing, immediately or very soon. Le médecin va arriver tout de suite. Mon clue words après ou dans quelques instants, quelques moments, quelques minutes. Okay, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, any expression indicating the near future. Okay, so je vais m'habiller après 5 minutes. I'm going to dress up after 5 minutes. The seventh tense that all the classes have is l'impératif, which is the imperative. It's the mood. Okay, it is to be used when the clause stands without a subject, which means the clause begins with a verb. Mark that it is a clause that begins with a verb and may not necessarily be the sentence. You can always have an imperative verb in between the sentence as well. Faites vos devoirs tout de suite. You can see that the sentence begins with the verb. Okay, there is no subject. The eighth tense that you have is l'infinitif, which is the full verb. Okay, it is used immediately after conjugated verbs like aller, aimer, préférer, savoir, vouloir, détester, devoir, pouvoir, etc. So whenever you have such verbs which are already conjugated, they are followed by the full verb. You cannot have back-to-back conjugated verbs when you have such verbs. Okay, vous savez parler combien de langues étrangères? How many foreign languages do you speak? So that savoir is savoir conjugated. Once you have savoir conjugated, the verb following it has to be in the full. Okay, so parler remains parler as the infinitive, which is a fancy word for the full verb. Okay. Second use, it is used immediately after verbs which take prepositions a ou the. Okay, so it need not be immediately after the verb which is conjugated. Can also be put after the prepositions a and de, which are preceded by conjugated verbs. So, il a oublié de mettre les lettres à la poste. Now, oublier is a verb which takes de as the preposition, to forget to do something. So, that mettre goes in the infinitive or it keeps its full form. Okay, for example, other verbs which take de include accepter, okay, refuser, décider, and so on. Conditionnel présent is only for the 10 standards in term 2. For the 12th, it is there for both the exams. It is used in one particular structure of sentence, which is C plus imparfait and then the conditional, or the conditional and then C plus imparfait. This is not to be confused with C plus présent plus future simple. Okay, there is a difference. Here it is C plus imparfait as one clause and the other clause goes in the conditionnel présent. Si l'agent de police était alerte, il arrêterait le voleur. So you can see the first part is C plus imparfait, était is être in the imparfait. So arrêter goes in the conditionnel présent as arrêter, arrêterait. Okay, if the police inspector was alert, he would catch the thief, he would stop the thief. Okay, it can also be reframed the other way around as l'agent de police arrêterait le voleur s'il était alerte. Need not be that the C comes at the start. It is a question of C plus imparfait in one part and conditional présent on the other part. Okay, not first and second, one and the other. Okay, again this is not there for the first term exam of the 10th standard. Okay, only the second one. The Gerondif ou participe présent is only for the 12th standards now. This is only 12th standard territory. Gerondif is the present participle. Just like you have a past participle, gerondif is the present participle used immediately after the preposition en, which means while. Okay, so en allant au cinéma, j'ai croisé Mathilde. While going to the cinema, I crossed Mathilde. And lastly, again, this is only for the 12th, which is the subjunctive. You have three uses for it. The first one, after the word que, which is preceded by a verb which indicates wish, desire, doubt, or regret. Such verbs are, for example, vouloir, souhaiter, désirer, douter, préférer, and so on. Je souhaite que tu ailles au bureau. I wish that you go to the office. Okay, souhaiter que is followed by the subjunctive. Second use is after impersonal expressions of the form il dash que, il faut que, il est nécessaire que, il est essentiel que, il est important que, and so on. For example, il vaut mieux que tu vendes cette voiture avant d'en acheter une autre. Now, il vaut mieux means it is better that. Okay, so whenever you have these expressions of il dash que, then the verb following them is taken in the subjunctive. And the third is when you have conjunctions like quack, afin que, bien que, pourvu que, malgré que, en attendant que, and so on. Okay, for example, j'attendrai ici jusqu'à ce que tu reviennes. I will wait here until you come back. Jusqu'à ce que is again another example of these conjunctions ending with que, which are followed by the subjunctive. That is it. These are all the tenses that you require for the 10th standard sum and some for the 12th standard. Okay, please make sure that you're consulting the appropriate ones based on the red bubbles that I've put on each slide. If you like this video, don't forget to check out both my books, one for the 8th, 9th and 10th standards and one for the 11th and 12th standards. You can get in touch with me on my number in case you'd like to purchase your copy. Thank you very much. Good luck for your board exams. And after that, Merry Christmas.